born ready.
Okay. Welcome to the Downtown Dogs. My name is Jimmy Rogers, and my next guest is the most disciplined and fit Husky I know.
That's kind.
He went to 2 Rose Bowls.
2 Rose Bowls?
A Sun Bowl.
Yep.
Most importantly, he was part of that 1978 team that started the season 1-3.
77 teams, 78 Rose Bowls.
78, took to the road down to Eugene,
Yep.
Administered a beatdown.
54 zip.
54 zip, and never looked back.
So that's, I mean, as I said, to you, the interesting thing for me was I was set to be red-shirted. We kind of get into this real quick.
No, go for it.
I was set to be red-shirted, and we were 1-3, and came back from I got called into James' office, and he said, we're going to pull your red shirt. And I said,
What do you mean pull your red shirt? So you were red-shirting that season,
red-shirting.
and it was game 4 had passed?
Game 4.
So it was X amount of quarters.
Yeah, so, at that point in time, I know you declared. I mean, I was declared early on.
Okay.
He declared at the start of the season, pulled me in and said, we're going to redshirt you this year. We think you need another year of development. Convinced me of this. You're going to be playing scout team all year. Then I'm going to bust balls on those guys, give them the best look I can get. Come in game 4, we're 1-3. The Seattle Times is calling for James's head. Maybe he's not the right coach. And called me into the office and said, we're going to pull your red shirt because we have an opportunity to get 5 or 6 guys back that have lost their eligibility. And so that was my first trip down there. So travel. So I always gave Coach James a hard time.
Your first trip was to
Eugene, on the bus, jumping on the bus.
That's one for the books.
And jumping on the bus, and that was my first game that I got any little playing time. And so I always told him after the fact, I said, as soon as you pulled my red shirt and started traveling me, your things turned around. The season turned around. We went to the Rose Bowl. We went on 1977 to 2003. There were 27 years of non-losing seasons, but it all started in that Oregon game, 54 zip.
And we'll come right back to that. I'd like to talk about the bus ride down to Eugene, but first, out of Seahome Valley High.
Seahome High School.
Seahome High School,
yep.
Lance Neubauer. Welcome to the show, Lance. How about the bus ride down to Eugene? What happened?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm a small town guy.
18 years old.
18 years old. My dad was a blue collar guy. Got me started in strength and conditioning and such. And my mom was a seamstress. So my first bus ride is you got to wear a suit on the bus. Well, all I have is a leisure suit that my mom, of course, in green and gold, Seahome colors. And I put the leisure suit on, and I go get on the bus for my first trip, happy to be on my first trip, and I get yanked off the bus. I don't remember by who, maybe by Chick Harris.
Because of the dress code?
Yeah. I didn't have a tie.
So but you didn't have facial hair, because there's
no
facial hair allowed.
No facial hair.
It was coat and tie.
Coat and tie, and I didn't have a coat and tie. I had a leisure suit.
Leisure suit, yeah.
And I thought that was going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I got pulled off the bus, and they said, okay, we'll let you go this time, because it's a bus ride. But next time through, you better have a suit. So then once we came back from that game.
So they allowed it that time.
Yeah.
And then tell us about the actual bus ride. What happened on the way down to Eugene?
Well, it was that I don't remember that being a real eventful bus ride.
You don't?
No.
Wasn't that the one where Don fired the driver?
No, that was an Arizona trip. I mean, the one I remember was an Arizona trip.
Okay.
I mean, I was on a bus in Arizona where the bus driver in Arizona passed him, and he had him pull over and fired the bus driver. The Oregon trip, I don't remember that Oregon trip, my first trip, being eventful.
You were too concerned about the leisure suit.
I was just hiding.
And were you on
back
special
there
teams? Were you a third string, second string tight end?
I wasn't a tight end at that point in time.
What were you?
I came into the running back room.
Oh, that's right.
So I was in that running back room with
Al Roberts.
With Al Roberts. Yeah, I've got a great picture from the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
In here, but with
Joe, Kyle,
Vince. Hey.
Hey, Bruce, we're in the middle of a show right now. Say hello to Lance Neubauer.
Bruce, how are ya?
I think we missed that. That's okay.
Is it going now?
We're going. So we didn't...
I don't see... I'm spinning. Oh, yeah, you're spinning.
We're spinning.
So he cut you off then.
We're spinning. Sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption. What's new? So Lance, can you imagine playing in today's game with the defensive backs are smaller? It seems like the safeties, everybody's turned into a cornerback. And they can't lunge, they can't target, they can't lead with the crown. All those things were legal back then. And it seems to me that there's more tight ends that are becoming superstars in the NFL versus one or two.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different game.
It's a different game.
It's a different game. And when you think about where I cut my teeth with the University of Washington was as a blocker. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't known as the guy with the greatest hands. I maybe made some outstanding catches in practices, and then I probably dropped some of the easiest catches in practices. So I wasn't known as a receiving tight end. I was a blocking guy. Mm-hmm. But game changed. I was a crackback block specialist. So I'd come from
which is probably illegal.
Totally illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was illegal shortly after that. But I mean, my job and my goal was to go in motion as fast as I could at my 6'3", 220, benching over 400 pounds, squatting, deadlifting, strong guy, and take the first guy to step over the line at the scrimmage and see how far you could knock him and how many other people you could take out. So, Dan, I'm really answering your question about the defensive backs, but those matchups are different now. I mean, they're different type of matchups with the collision changes, the physicality of the game, and more skills. I think your tight ends are more receiver type, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, if you don't mind, yesterday you made a comment to me about how we can control our PMA, and I follow that, positive mental attitude.
Positive mental attitude.
And then you said also our QTL, which is that a DNA?
No. So
what is the QTL?
So it's our quality time left.
Okay.
So you mentioned on the way in here, you mentioned how you've changed some lifestyle things and what you've done. You've taken control of your quality time left. So I think a lot of us get caught up in various things, and we're doing things for various reasons. I mean, I'm 65, going on 66. I try to make decisions now based upon, there's an end in there somewhere for all of us. And to try to live as high a quality of life as I can at this point in time moving forward. So, positive mental attitude, quality time left. I think that solves a lot of things in our daily.
How much did you weigh when you played?
Here's the funny thing. I came out of high school being a guy that was 6'3", 215-ish. I got up at the University of Washington. I probably gained a whole 10 pounds. Maybe if you look in the stats, maybe I was listed as 225 at some point in time.
And how about now?
225.
225.
Yeah.
Good for you. Any? How is your health? Any replacements? Knees, shoulders, hips?
Just one hip.
You had a hip replacement. How long ago?
A year ago. Exactly a year ago.
Great surgery.
Exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. Very happy with mine.
I'm probably due for a knee, but that's a story for another day.
Okay. Now you're married to Allison for 42 years.
Yeah, but we dated though in high school, so we've been together for damn near 50 years.
50 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Your father, Fred, fought in the Korean War.
Yep.
He described himself as a scrawny kid, a scrawny person, and then he hit the weights. And then when he went into the war, he was buffed, he was ripped.
Ripped guy.
And I think that's where maybe he may have inserted weightlifting into your DNA. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's I watched him training with there's weights in the basement. I mean, you got to go back. He at maybe 16 years old, 17 years old in high school. He dropped out of high school, moved into a chicken coop on my grandpa's farm, ordered weights from York Barbell, and started training himself. Built himself up strong. So I saw him, and in those days, weightlifting wasn't necessarily a thing that was done for athletics. So at 10 years old, he finally said, "Okay, you can lift weights." Put together a program for me, hung it on the furnace, and then I was lucky enough to kind of go through this progression of, showing my dad showing me how to lift weights, and then being at Seaholm High School where program Bigger, Faster, Stronger started out, which became one of the largest high school strength and conditioning programs in the nation. Greg Shepard was brought in from Muscle Beach by Herb Langman and had this program. And then I get to the University of Washington, and we're using Nautilus machines.
Right.
Were they doing Nautilus when you were down there too? Do you remember doing much free weights? Or you weren't into that?
Well, the testing was free weights. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thrusting was
That
only on bench. Was only on a
1980.
bench.
Squat was free weights.
Yeah. We were. I mean, then we had the side back of the Nautilus machine.
The Nautilus just never.
Do you remember the bench that you were training on down there? That you benched your max bench on?
That one of my questions was you said you implemented the wide back.
That was the first. That was the first.
77.
77.
So how did you implemented it or?
So in high school, I mean, we
Right.
were lifting. I mean, I was benching 400 pounds out of high school.
Okay.
So when I came to the University of Washington had narrow benches.
Okay.
Which, pretty shaky type things. So my dad built a stainless steel bench, flat bench, and we brought that in, and that was the bench that everybody used for maxing.
So your dad brought it down and took it to who?
We brought it in the weight room.
Brought it in? Didn't ask?
No, I don't know. I think I just brought it down
then.
into the weight room, moved it in, and a bunch of the machinists helped create some collars for the bars. So the collars that we were using through 77, and when you got in there, were all stuff that was made for my by my dad. And so you think about. I look back now and think about these multi-million-dollar weight rooms. Each new strength coach that comes in clears it out, brings in their own stuff. Here it is, 1977. My dad, who's a fitter at Georgia Pacific, welds up a bench. We haul it down there, and we're bringing our own equipment. I don't know of any other player in the history of the University of Washington that brought their own equipment. With them so they could safely bench over 400 pounds.
I think you're the first.
At the school.
Your mother Marie is still with us. She's 89 years old. Is that correct?
88. Yep, 88.
3 siblings.
Yep.
1 set of twins.
Yep.
Your hobbies are very manly: family, hunting, fishing, automobiles, home improvement, woodworking, coaching, and teaching.
Yep. I'm a coach.
You're a coach.
I'm a coach
through and through.
I'm a coach through and through, whether it's business type stuff or what I'm doing.
So whether it's in one venue or the other, you're coaching. You own a gym. Get Strong First.
It's got a pretty logical name for a gym for me, is Get Strong First.
Great name. The address is 18501 Aurora.
Yep.
And that's in Shoreline.
Yep.
If you want to check it out, it's 206-542-4833. That's 206-542-4833. Get Strong First at 18501 Aurora in Shoreline. You were the 2-time nominee for the Whatcom County Sportsman of the Year.
Yep,
All-state in football.
All-state guy.
Came second in shot put. I think that was part of the decathlete.
The decathlon, the shot put was the state shot put. I was second to Vince Goldsmith.
Oh.
So Vince Goldsmith, an Oregon.
That's a tough one, yeah.
Went down to Oregon. He broke the state record.
Do you remember how far he put?
He threw 70 feet.
And you went 64?
And I went 60 feet 4 inches.
He went 70?
10 feet ahead of everybody else.
He was...
Literally, fences needed to be moved when Vince would throw, and he was quite the athlete.
That's what I've heard. You competed in the decathlon,
which
is very intriguing.
Yeah, for a guy that was 6'3". When I was doing track and field, I would do multiple events: long jump, triple jump, high jumps. Always did shot put and discus, but I would do the various events. I would always usually run 100, run part of a relay. I ran okay for my size, but one of my claim to fame would be still is I hold the national shot put record in a decathlon.
You do?
To this day. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, pole vault is supposedly the hardest thing to do in athletics. Number 1. Number 2 is to hit a fastball.
Well,
did you pole vault?
I would disagree with that a little bit. I think that in track and field, I think that the hammer throw is probably the most technical event along with the pole vault.
Interesting.
So the pole vault is a very technical event. So is the hammer. But back in those days, being that I was 215, 210 maybe my junior year when I was pole vaulting, the only pole that they could find for me that I could use was a metal pole. So I've actually vaulted with a metal pole. Yeah.
Dangerous.
Well, not dangerous, but you don't get a lot of flex out of the pole. You basically pull yourself up and drop over the pole.
You got your degree in business and administration at the University of Washington.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did you go to the University of Washington because of the business school like myself, or did you go there for football first?
Nope, I went when I was being recruited around the nation, whether it was Stanford or Notre Dame or Oregon State, Washington State, the Arizona schools, I was looking for a program that had forestry.
Interesting.
I wanted to be Rick the Ranger, Lance the Ranger. And so I was in the forestry program. I spent 2 years in the forestry program at the University of Washington, took all the sciences, took everything, and that was another one of those turns that one of the requirements for the forestry program was you need to go serve in the forest, maybe fight some forest fires or do that type of thing. So I went and said, hey, this summer I need to go do my gig, and the coaching staff said, well, good luck, but if you go fight forest fires or go work in the forest, there won't be a scholarship here when you get back. So let's find another program for you. So at that point in time, after 2 years in the forestry, I transferred into the business school and got a business degree.
Okay, interesting.
So lots of twists and turns.
Yeah,
for me.
very
that's why I say I'm an
interesting.
oxymoron with lots of things. With started as a tight end, started as a running back, moved to a tight end, started in forestry, moved around.
And you lettered in both football and track?
Luckily, one of the things that I like to lift the weights so much and was into the weightlifting, and the coaching staff was pushing us to these Nautilus machines, which I wasn't a fan of. Then I connected with a bunch of the track guys, and I would do a lot of my weightlifting with the track and field team. So, another great coach, Ken Shannon, down there. You think of
Is he with us still?
he is.
Oh, fantastic. Do you
Yeah.
ever talk to him?
Oh yes.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
is he?
He's doing okay.
He's got to be
hopefully-
how old?
I'm not sure how old he is now, but he's now living over on the peninsula. He still has his ranch.
Oh, good for him.
Back in eastern Washington, but he's with his daughter, and still see his son periodically, Tim Shannon, and was a firefighter, and yeah, he's. Think about that coaching. Think about the coaching staffs when we were down there. When you got down there, who, with the Harshmans, the Jameses, the Shannons, you had crew with Ernst. With the Ernst was after, but Bissell was the band. We had just a tremendous amount of.
We had it all. Gertrude.
Gertrude.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny stories with Gertrude too. Here I am, a guy. Everybody's just trying to get everybody through school, and I'm like, Gertrude, can we get maybe Evelyn Wood in here and teach me how to speed read?
You wanted to take it to the next level.
But I had fun working with her because I did help out with academics with guys and.
You were tutoring?
I did tutor for.
Not
for a number of
officially,
years.
but just.
No, officially I was a tutor.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I tutored. Had a bunch of the freshman guys and towards my senior year, and I helped out quite a bit with tutoring. I ran groups down in various places around campus.
You were really the ultimate teammate.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
I think about the things that the players today lose with just that commitment to doing a task and the sacrifices you make to do the task. Did everything work out optimally? No, but how many people did you have an influence on, and did you make a positive impact when you were there, and did you give everything your best effort? And yes. Nowadays it's like, well, it didn't work out for me here, well, let me transfer and go somewhere else. I think that's a disservice to those players.
So let me know what you think of this. As a strong safety, I'd cover the tight ends. So Lance and I went against each other one-on-one quite often.
Yep.
And in my opinion, the way that the tight ends would run their routes coincides with the way they would run their life at a later point. So you were always very precise, very aggressive. Had me scared a few times as an 18-year-old, and you were 20, 21.
Coming full speed at you and make.
You were just coming full speed. You had a look on your face like you were going to murder me.
I would say that I did everything at full speed.
Yes, you did.
I did everything at full speed, whether it was scout team or whatever. I did everything at full speed. I always.
And that carried into your after football life.
Sure.
And then you get for example, you get a Ronnie Wheeler, his routes were not as precise,
But
a little more creative, and he's in sales.
Super athletic guy, good speed. I always felt it was better to give than to receive. So if I was going to have a collision with somebody or something was going to happen, I would rather give than to receive. So
Nice of you.
I knew you guys were hanging out back there, and if the ball was caught, that I wanted to be in a position to always give rather than receive that ear hole.
That's very nice of you. Now, why do you think David Bale started in front of you? Was he the same age, or was he a year younger, or?
So David was brought in as a JC transfer.
I didn't know that.
So I was fresh to the position. I came in as a during the Rose Bowl, that '78 Rose Bowl.
So even though you were there earlier than David, a year earlier, you switched positions to tight end.
I switched positions.
And they brought him in as the tight end.
As a tight end, and Wheeler came in as a transfer at the same time too.
Oh, okay.
So there was definitely, and the game was changing, right? I mean, I was, you're told whatever when you're being recruited, but I was being recruited coming in that we want to replace Robin Earl. We want a big, strong fullback, and we want to run. We want to bring you in as a Robin. And we brought in a bunch of. You look at that freshman class. There were 4 freshmen came into that room that year with Colby Stevens, Toussaint Tyler, and myself. All came into that running back room.
Wow.
That freshman year. But then I moved to tight end. A new position for me. I'd never played tight end before. In fact, University of Washington was the only school that recruited me as an offensive player. Everybody else recruited me more as a defensive player. But David came out of junior college as a lot of receptions. The game was changing. We were, with Warren Moon, and then you moved into the Flick and the Porras and the Cowens, and the game turned more to throwing and change of pace. And it's easy. David was a better receiver. Mm-hmm. We were even in spring, at that spring when he came in, we were even. In fact, I might have even been starter, but then by the fall he had bypassed me once he learned the offense. But I played a lot as a double tight end and as a blocking specialist.
And that '77 team had a lot of tracksters.
A lot of tracksters for that, especially that freshman class. With even if you look at just the throws with Kerry Bailey and Rusty Olson and myself and pull up things here, but there was a lot of those guys were track guys, runners, jumpers, throwers.
And a minute ago, we talked about the coaches we had. And at what point did you realize that we may have played for one of the greatest college football coaches of all times? I don't see anybody competing with him right now.
No, to me,
What point did you realize that you had played and coached under one of the greatest?
Probably for me, it was, I went to a point in time where I went into, we all go through stages of development, mentally, physically, and realistically. I hit a point at some point in time where I was a support player, and I realized that, and I wanted to do the best job I could of it, and I realized that football was an end to a means for me, get my education, do various things. But probably for me, it was when I was finishing up. I had an extra quarter to go. Coach James said, "Why don't you come in and help coach?" I wasn't an official coach on the roster, but I was down there working with the tight ends. And then he called me in and he said, "You could have a future in coaching if you want." He said, "I've set up you can go down to Oregon right now and continue your education and start your coaching career down there." At that point in time, I said I needed to move away. But it was probably at that point in time when you realize that being 1-3 and seeing the chess pieces that they were moving around in the coaching staff, and then seeing what happened, bringing players back, continuing to develop. By the time we went to that '81 Rose Bowl, I think it was pretty evident at that point in time that if we could get to those big games, Coach James would find a way to be competitive in those big games. And to me, I don't look at, when you say coaching, to me it's more some guys would say it was God in the office and it's the discipline. To me it was, I never saw it that way. There was goals and expectations. There's time management. There's preparation. And expecting the outcome that was going to be there once you did all those things. And those things apply to to me to everything I do in life, whether it's business stuff, family stuff, or whatever it is. And I think he had a good, he developed his coaching tree as such a large coaching tree. And you look at the coaches that they reloaded with each time and how everybody blended into his style, and he coached the coaches. I mean, I think the biggest thing, when it was the first time I realized that he was going to be a different kind of a coach, probably the first Rose Bowl when you watched what a Michigan team was doing versus a Washington team was doing. One was held under a thumb, and the other one was very, very loose. And it wasn't that we were
That's right.
It wasn't that we were undisciplined. It was that those games at that point in time were a reward of a hard season.
First week out of 2 weeks in Los Angeles,
We were free to
we were free, no bed check.
no bed check.
Second week, we eased into bed check,
Yep.
tightened up, and we went down 2 weeks early, whereas Michigan would go down 2 or 3 days early.
Correct. And you just see it whether you're at the various events or various things. There was just a difference. But I think that the James system of developing coaches, developing players, and it was a real development system. I'm not sure what that system does in a day like today. It's a different type of a coach today.
I don't think the kids would respond. I think they'd transfer.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it?
Very much so. Now, in 1981, Coach James set you up as a coach at the University of Oregon under Rich Brooks.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've heard this story from anybody that coached for Don James
Yeah.
and then coached for Rich Brooks. So you kicked Oregon's behind as a Husky. Then you went to Oregon for 3 years, three seasons?
I didn't. I never coached for Oregon.
You were a GA?
Nope, I never took the GA job.
Oh, he just set it up for you.
He set it up for me.
And-
He set it up. I went down to Oregon
okay.
and I met with Rich Brooks. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I hear various guys, that you interview and with the hate of Oregon and this. I was treated nothing but with respect, and the Oregon program was very close. It wasn't close with Washington, but if for some reason things didn't work out with Washington, I would have had no problem playing for Oregon, personally. They had new facilities at that point in time. They had way better weight rooms than the University of Washington had. We weren't walking downstairs into Tubby Gray's into a basement to go do strength and conditioning. But he set it up, but I went down there and I met with them, and I decided at that point in time that I wanted to just get away from football. So I left from down there.
22 years old, 23?
Yeah.
Right around there? Yeah.
Yeah, and I started working for a company down in Ballard, Northwest Bolton, that company, and decided I wanted to put my business degree to work. And I didn't go to a football game. I didn't watch football on TV. I didn't do anything for a full year, maybe more than that. My wife, we still had season tickets. We bought season tickets as soon as I was done, so I've been a season ticket holder since the time I finished until now. But my wife would go to the games with her family, but I wouldn't even go watch a game for that first year. I needed to just be away from it.
Good move. So coach us up for a second. Is it true we have our own ecosystem? Meaning, if I get a little bit depressed, which happens from time to time, I'll hit the weights or hit the workout, and the endorphins will get going.
I believe so.
Can you speak to that? I mean, diet.
Well, I mean, I think that if we want to do a public service announcement for guys of our era that played, do you take creatine daily?
I do not. Should I?
So creatine. I mean, do the research. I mean, I always tell everybody to do the research. Don't listen to me. I'm just a guy that owns a gym and tries to stay as healthy as I can. We had some collisions in our time.
Correct.
If I have one concern, about my playing days, it was we didn't have a realization of head injuries and the various things. I mean, I remember getting hit on kickoffs and coming off the sidelines, and basically you're coming off, and it was like maybe some smelling salts, and are you okay? And how many fingers do you see? And you go, okay, you're good to go again. Creatine can help with brain health.
Okay.
So it's a simple thing to do. It's very inexpensive supplement, and go research, guys. Like there's a guy.
Does it make you bigger, thicker, stronger?
No, it really
Just for the brain.
Originally, I started taking creatine over 20 years ago. Consistently, I've been taking it every day for 10 years. Originally, creatine was there because it was a supplement that would help you with muscle recovery, gain a little bit of strength, and really it helps with the mitochondria health. So we're kind of we'll get back to where you're going with mitochondrial health. But it also, in more recent years, is showing various benefits with brain health and permeability with the brain and keeping function of the brain going as we age. So it's one of the supplements I don't think that it's probably the most researched supplement out there, and that anyone that played contact football
should take it. And you take it daily?
I take it daily, yeah, 5 milligrams. Yeah, you don't do any preloading, you do Creapure type, and you put it into a little bit of water, shake it up, and it tastes like you're drinking sand. But
what about collagen?
Collagen, I've done on and off with collagen, but that's not something that I take on a daily basis per se.
Fasting.
I think fasting can be, people have to tell me, are you doing it for esophagy, for your cell regeneration, or are you doing it for weight management?
Do you recommend it for either?
I think for esophagy, for cell regeneration, it can be very, very good. For weight loss, it can be good and bad. It depends on your discipline of it. Fact of the matter is I'm a pretty basic guy when it comes to weight management, and that is it's calories in, calories out. So there's a lot of mental things going in. Do that people eat because they're depressed? Blah blah blah. Drink. Blah blah blah. There's lots of other things involved. But if we're where we go then with fasting, it can be used as a way to cut your calories. And it can be used for esophagy. But then going back to so exercise. I always tell people at the gym, if somebody comes in, they might give me a call and they say, I'm not feeling really good today, I feel like I said, come in, is all I ask you to do. If you saw my workouts, it'd look like a football practice in a lot of ways. We're gonna do a dynamic warm-up. We're gonna move. We're gonna do a few things on the floor. We're gonna do some mobility stuff, then we're gonna get into our strength training. Our strength training is gonna be, blocks of a lower body. I want to see a squat, a hinge, and a lunge. And then our second block is when we push and pulls horizontally, vertically. And then we're going to do some, hypertrophy type stuff or some single leg stuff or whatever it might be. But I tell people, come in, do the warm up. If you still don't feel good, go home. 99.9% of the time, once people come in and they get some blood flowing, you get some in the endorphins going. You get blood flow. And I think what's highly undervalued with strength training, people say, what kind of training do you? I want people to get stronger. My God, my gym's called Get Strong First. So yes, we want to get. Do I want you to improve your zone 2? Yes. Do I want you to improve your VO2 max? Yes. I think you need to do both of those things simultaneously. But what strength training does is it provides us with a buffer. The more muscle we have, the better we can regulate our glucose. The better we can regulate our glucose, the better lots of things go. So yes, and it's gonna help us manage our hormones. The better we can manage the hormones and keep those hormone levels up, whether it's those testosterone levels or managing estrogen levels, whatever it might be, we're going to feel better.
One more coaching tip. So the bench exercises that I do, I find my shoulders going forward as I get older. I feel like I'm doing this. I'm constantly trying to force them back.
So how much time? I try to take and program into all my workouts. I try to program in. Sometimes I program 2-to-1 rows to presses.
Okay.
So you've got your dumbbells over here.
Well, you're not going to be on camera.
I'm wanting to do tons and tons of rows, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wanting to do tons and tons of rows. So anytime that I'm benching, I want to do twice as much.
Back.
Yes.
So you're standing
Face
versus
pulse.
laying.
face pulls with a band. I mean, I'd have a hook up.
Say it again, face
pulls.
Okay.
I'd have a set of bands hooked up, and I do tons and tons of stuff with bands. You don't need a lot of equipment.
Okay.
I mean, I have stuff that I program with body weight bands and various things, but we want to try to do that position of, we can do it when we're sitting, right? Are we sitting here? Are we sitting in this position looking at our phone? But if we can be in this position. But for most people that press, especially if you're doing barbell press isn't healthy, it's better to go to a dumbbell press. And then if you have a ball, doing a press on a ball can be very, very shoulder friendly and help
Great
with
tip.
that.
Great tip.
Help with
In 1980, you received the 101 Club Scholarship Award.
Yep.
What is that award?
Highest GPA on the football team.
What was your GPA?
I'm an oxymoron, but I wasn't a good student in high school. I was bored. I was probably a 2.5 type of thing, and I skipped through school. But when I got to the University of Washington, I pulled my GPA up into the 3-4-ish range type of a thing.
And the other award winners were Blair Bush, Scotty Green, Mayor Bruce Harrell, Mark Giroux.
Giroux was
Chuck
after
Nelson.
me. Chuck Nelson was a couple years
Steve
after.
Pallure.
Yeah.
Dan Ernessy.
Yeah. I see Dan around all the time, too.
Yeah.
He's up in Everett. Yeah.
Who recruited you on your trip to the University of Washington? Did you have a 2-day weekend? Did they put you in a hotel, or were you local, so it was a little different?
I was brought down. I was, they were really, being a local guy, they were really trying to bring in, Geneva was making an effort. You look at how many local guys were in that 77 class. So, Jim Lambright had that area. So, I mean, you think about it in those day and age. I mean, he drove up to. My mom never drove. My dad was a blue collar guy working. I'm trying to figure out now, how did I get to these various places? I know that Coach Lambright drove up to Bellingham a couple of times and picked me up and brought me down to unofficial visits.
What was that drive like? Do you remember? You were probably quiet.
No, I don't know. I mean, no, I think that we had, I was, if you could get me going on strength training or training or that type of stuff, I mean, I was into a lot of different things. I mean, being a track and field guy and being a decathlete and, football guy and into the strength training. I mean, I had a lot of different interests. Whether it would be, I grew up hunting and fishing, and so there was a lot of interest that I think you could get me talking about. It wasn't. I don't remember it being awkward. Coach Lambright was very approachable, and.
Would you consider yourself pretty mature for your age?
I'm a small town guy. I mean, the first time I got on an airplane, I don't even know how I figured out how to get on an airplane. I never flown before, going on a recruiting trip. So I don't think I would have been.
Did you go to other schools? Did you take trips? So you flew?
Yeah, I had to get on a plane somewhere to go to Notre Dame. I had to get on a plane somewhere.
So you went to Notre Dame?
Stanford, yeah.
Stanford?
Would have gone to Washington State, down to Arizona schools.
Okay.
Oregon.
And then later, a few years later, were you a host to any Huskies that took their trip to Seattle?
Yeah, but I was kind of on autopilot. I was a closer. I was brought in a lot as kind of the closer. So I would come in to somebody else's recruit. They might have them for most of the weekend, and then I was kind of brought in as a closer to answer any other questions and to maybe take them around campus to the actual classes that maybe some guys weren't as familiar with. And do I remember any? I mean, my host was Stan Wolterhog.
Okay.
So I had
There's a name out of the past.
Stan's a great guy. I still see Stan to this day. And in fact, Stan, so he ended up hosting me, and then he ended up having a summer job up at Georgia Pacific, up in Bellingham,
right?
Where my dad worked for Georgia Pacific. And so he was staying up there, and then I had keys to the high school weight room, so Stan and I actually worked out together. And Stan wasn't. We had these the accountability cards, right? You send your accountability cards in each week, and I'm filling mine out, and Stan's filling. And he said, I can fill this out and send it in. The coach is not going to believe I'm doing anything, because he had that kind of a reputation. But.
Do you remember your first concert?
No.
You don't?
I'm not a music guy.
You're not?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if you had playlists and various things, I mean, I hear you talk, guys, about playlists. I said, music is on all the time at the gym, but if I don't have a playlist, I mean, I'll go pick Apple Classic, Apple Rock, Apple Rap,
Okay.
Apple whatever, workout music for this, and I'll put it on, and it's background noise to me. I don't have any, if you jump in my car, my radios haven't been on in my car for, I'll listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcast type of things, but music isn't, it's there, and yes, music is part of what drives the workouts, but it's not something I don't have we're going to get after it here. I'm going to work out hard, so I'm going to put on this playlist. I don't have that type of a thing.
What was your fastest 40 again?
Who timed it? Right? Who timed it? I mean, you got to think about back in the day, 1974, 75. I mean, these coaches are coming up. I was a freak. I mean, in those point in days, there wasn't guys. I remember having coaches come in.
What do you mean, who timed it? Depending on if they were user friendly, you mean, or
was it the football coach, the track coach? Was it one of the colleges? Was it the pros? I mean, my times went from 4.5 to 4.8. The older I got, the slower I got. So it kind of depends on who was timing. It wasn't like we have an electronic timing now, where there isn't there isn't. You get electronic time, you get electronic time. It is what it is.
Right.
But you got slow fingers and you have fast fingers.
Turf or grass? What do you prefer?
I never ran a 40 on turf.
Just playing football, turf or grass?
Well, yeah, I grew up playing on grass fields, and that original field at the University of Washington, I wouldn't call it turf. I would call it
cement.
It was
covered cement.
It was carpet. Mm-hmm. It was carpet. I mean, you remember the days. We never stepped on that field unless it was what? Soaked down 100%, hosed down, because of how sticky it was. So I would always prefer. I mean, where would I prefer to run? On a track. I prefer to run.
Do you remember your first time coming out of the tunnel as a player?
No. I mean, I remember the first game. Game. The reason I remember that first game is because I was, I'm a small town guy. You're coming out there. Hey, it's party time again.
What was your most memorable game?
That I had a real good game at the Sun Bowl down in El Paso on special teams. There were the Jones boys, Lamb Jones, Slam Jones, Bam Jones, and I had a number of individual tackles on punts. I had a pretty good game. I was put against, I remember a game against Green, one of the Greens, Hugh Green. What was the Green?
Hugh Green, I think.
It's Pitt guy.
Oh,
they played out here. They played out here in Seattle, and he ended up being like second in the Heisman voting one of his years, and I had an assignment to go against him all day and had a very good game. But my games wouldn't have been highlights. I mean, I had maybe 6 kickoff returns in my career on kickoff returns for a total of maybe 20 yards. I had a handful of catches, but my highlights would have been blocking and especially some of the crackback blocking and opening the holes and
Understood. So did you know when you walked off the field for the last time that was in fact your last time?
Probably yes and no. I mean, I had, like a lot of us did at that point in time, I mean, I did do some of the pro day stuff, and I had an invitation to go up to the BC Lions and try out, but I never went up there.
Did you have a difficult time adjusting after football?
Not really. I mean, I turned my focus. I think you'd see in my life, I have things that I focus on in blocks, and when I do it, I'm all in. But then, after a certain moment in time, I was a snowboard instructor for a period of time, and I did everything I could to be the best snowboard instructor and up the mountain. But then, at a point in time, it just dropped off, and I moved to something else. I coached high school sports for 14, 15 years, and I did everything I could to do that. And when I finished, I dropped off. So Did I have times when I thought I wished I would have maybe given it a try? Yeah, I think we all do. If we
Yeah.
don't, we're not a competitor. I mean, so yeah, I had times, but I got married. You know, we bought a house. We have family. My focus went there, and I would never give up those times. At times with raising kids, spending time with my wife, and those type of things. It was just again one of those trade-offs.
Do you think that Tuesdays and Wednesdays were more violent, the practice days versus the game days on Saturday?
In my estimation, I tried to make them that.
I know you did.
I mean, yeah, you went against me. I a lot of times, I mean, some of the older guys, especially freshman year, maybe sophomore year, I know that, you know, I was maybe pulled over a few times and said, tone it down a little bit. And I was pretty adamant of the fact of, I want to make games easy for you. And so I'm going to go as hard as I can. And again, I just kind of went out each day with, it's better to give than to receive. I think maybe one time I got cheap shotted on a play downfield, and I said I'm never going to let that happen again. So I always had
Just
my head
takes
on a
once.
swivel. I just had my head on a swivel, and I'm gonna, if I get a chance to take it to somebody, I want to take it to somebody. But not because I wanted to hurt anybody, not because I wanted to do. I wanted to give the best possible look I could, so that when I think if you look at things that change, what you know with you know maybe between games, James' program, various things, is everybody on that same page to try to make the team the best you could, rather than say, you know, we're going to highlight this individual. James's teams were teams. Yes, there were individual stars. People were highlighted more than others. But I always felt that I never felt that because I was a scout team player, I was any less than the starting quarterback, which maybe that's more me, I don't know, but I always felt that it was a team effort, and that everything that we did went into those wins and losses were team based, and that was everybody that was on the field at that point in time.
In your opinion, who is the best athlete at the University of Washington?
So what's your definition
Out
of
of
it?
whether you were playing or coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Warren Moon's athleticism was highly underrated. I'm always more, you know, it's easy to pick some of the guys that have already been highlighted that were great track and field athletes and were high school record holders, but to watch a Kurt Marsh come down a basketball court and dunk a basketball, the big people, the Stafford Mazes, the Fletcher Jenkins, to watch these larger gentlemen move up and down a basketball court or up and down a field so effortlessly, and with the athleticism that they had, were always the most impressive to me, more than the smaller guys that had great speed. Of course, you know, you had a guys like Spider Gaines had world-class speed. I mean, I was on the track watching him run. He could have been an Olympian in the hurdles, and you watch him as a 100-meter hurdler, 110 hurdler, but some of those guys didn't apply themselves as much to their trade that others did, and so even though they were great natural athleticism, like the person that put effort into it and saw the rewards from it.
Did you watch the 1985 Orange Bowl?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I would have been probably in my home, in my living room. Yeah.
What accomplishments are you most proud of in your entire life?
My family. I mean, my having two wonderful kids that are wonderful human beings that have individuals that they're with, and then the time with my wife. That the 50 years is a long time together, you know, and we keep going on, and it's those accomplishments, and then I just the sheer number of people that I've had some influence over as a snowboard instructor, as a high school coach, as owning a gym, in work environments, just the number of sheer people that I've had in that. And then I'm proud of my career as I got into IT real early. I mean, I beta tested some early products from this little company down the street called Microsoft, and I worked with mainframes and minis, and I bought into early PCs, and so I was early into PCs. I was early into digital. I say funny about into music. I was early into digital music.
Right, I saw that.
I was a digital music guy, you know, with internet radio stations and then music delivery systems, And so it all blends together. It all adds up. But definitely family is
Do you have a favorite word?
PMA. 3 of them. Positive mental attitude. If you want to take one of those, it's attitude.
Least favorite word?
Can't.
What turned you on?
Coaching.
What turned you off?
Motivating groups of people. Just bringing energy, coming into a room and that energy and bringing people up and having the time that they spend with me being the best part of their day. What turns me off, negative people that can't and that are negative. I don't like negative.
What sound or noise do you love?
Silence. I mean, I love going through a field and following my dog and hearing the bell on the dog and having the silence and just being prepared for that point in time that dog gets on a bird and that bird gets up and then you've got to move into action very quickly.
What kind of dog do you have?
Oddly enough, I hunt with golden retrievers. I've had my last X amount of dogs. I've been yellow labs, black labs, golden retrievers. Right, my last number of dogs are all golden retrievers.
What noise or sound do you dislike?
Loud noise, just loud, obnoxious noises.
What profession would you like to attempt other than your own?
I've had opportunities to kind of do some things and other. I mean, I'm kind of an oxymoron. I mean, here I am. I'm a computer guy. I own a gym. I mean, so my days might start at 7:30 and I get home at 8:30 at night still. I mean, I have 12-hour days. By the time I do my IT work and work at my warehouse up at North Pacific Trading up in Everett and running the warehouse and IT operations and then come home, run the gym and then get home.
What profession would you not like to do?
So I would like
Did you want to I'm sorry.
I love car. I still have. I wood shop at home. I like doing it. And so I did. Part of doing that process, I helped some friends build companies. And so I love working with my hands. So, I dabble in anyway, carpentry, woodworking, and also automotive type stuff. Those are hobbies. And so that was something I could sign myself in doing professionally.
Okay. And then what profession would you not like to do? Your last choice.
You know what? I always say there's probably things I can't do, but there's nothing I won't attempt. So I don't necessarily know that I have a profession I wouldn't try. Do I have anything that I've done that I've hated? No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear at the pearly gates? From
Heaven exists, and I'd be happy to be greeted there by God and my dad, my grandparents, and if they say, Lance, you've had positive influence on a lot of people. Nicely done.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Lance.
Quick and fast. Here we go.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us from the heart of Seattle. I'm Jimmy Rogers, and we are the Downtown Dogs.